Welcome back to another episode of Modern Cyber, coming to you again from the sidelines of Forward CloudSec, where again we are lucky enough to get to sit down with some of the people making Forward CloudSec happen. In this case, it is Toni de la Fuente. Toni, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thanks for having me.
So for people who don't know you or know your company Prowler, maybe just a quick introduction. Tell us a little bit about your career, when you started Prowler, why you started Prowler, what is Prowler, all of that.
Sure. I'm Toni de la Fuente. I started in cybersecurity now almost 26 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm doing many different things from testing to hardening, blue team, purple team, red team, mostly blue team.
Okay.
And I started doing stuff in the cloud back in 2012 or so.
Okay.
Then I realized that we needed more tools.
Okay.
And I started writing Prowler. But in 2016.
Okay.
Actually, today is our 9th anniversary.
Yeah, I saw your post. Yeah, I saw your post about that. 9 years. Wow. And, you know, those 9 years, I want to get into that journey in just a second. But what was the original inspiration? You said you realized that you needed more tools. How did you realize that?
Well, basically, I had a bunch of AWS accounts and I didn't know how to access them.
Okay.
And I said, okay, I found the CIS benchmark that was released that year.
Yeah,
the first version of the CIS benchmark.
I remember.
And I thought, okay, let me see if I can do some automation on that, because those benchmarks came with the CLI, AWS CLI. By that time, I started only for AWS, and I said, okay, I'm going to do the assessment once.
Okay.
The second time has to be automated, and also has to be easy enough for everybody to run it and get green if you have good configuration and red if you have something to do.
Okay.
Easy for me not to be on top of anybody else.
Yeah.
But everybody else doing that. So, and I started doing that automation. It was a bash script back in the day.
Yeah.
And since I'm a headbanger, I love Iron Maiden. I found that the first song of the first album of Iron Maiden is the name is Prowler.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I said, okay, Prowler is a cool name for a security tool.
It is, yeah.
Like as an assessment or a scanning tool. And that was the name. And that was 9 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
And it grew a lot. And now we have a company.
And I'm curious, right? So at that same time, around 2016, I was actually working for a CSPM company at the same time. Mm-hmm. Why did you go open source? Because I think there would have been like a lot of arguments that, oh, no, you should just make this a commercial offering. There's lots of companies that needed a tool like this at that time for exactly what you said. Every customer that we worked with at the time, the first use case was CIS benchmark checking.
Exactly. Well, the point is, I didn't do that as a product.
Okay.
I did that as an open source project. I've done other open source projects and worked for open source companies, and it was an exercise for me to learn. Basically,
okay.
I wanted to learn more about hardening S3, hardening EC2 instances, hardening the networking in the cloud, all that stuff, and I learned a lot because the first 250 checks of Prowler was written by myself.
Yeah,
and I learned a lot about AWS security. Also, by that time, I was doing a lot of forensics. Forensics, that wasn't a very popular topic.
No.
And it was, mostly a learning exercise and just to publish something for everybody. Not like, okay, I'm going to create a new product.
Yeah.
That came after that.
Yeah. Well, I want to come back to cloud forensics in a minute, because that's actually something that I think a lot of people don't really understand how to do cloud forensics. There's so many different types of logs that have different data in them, and getting all that together and then understanding what actually happened can be quite challenging. So let's come to that in a minute. But so 9 years of running an open source project, you yourself did the first 250 checks. When did you see that the project started to grow and have other people contributing to it, and then starting to, let's say, build some of their own checks or add core functionality that you could then merge into the core open source project?
That was very in the early days as well, because I didn't even know, this is a good example for people to see that I was very newy on that. I didn't even know about stars.
Okay.
On GitHub. I remember I had a friend that came to say, Toni, have you seen that Prowler has 300 stars? I said 300 what? and it was it started becoming very popular.
Yep.
And a little bit after that, I remember during a talk at the Sans CloudSec Next in San Diego.
Okay.
I was doing a talk about cloud forensics. And in cloud forensics, I did a category in Prowler that is forensics readiness.
Okay.
For people that is learning about cloud security, when you have an incident in the cloud or anywhere, but you need to contain the incident, of course.
Yeah.
Then to do your analysis to see what has happened and to prevent it to happen again, right?
Yeah.
In the cloud, you need to make sure everything is enabled.
Right. All your logs are turned on. Yeah.
All the any traceability from your application to whatever else you are using, like a Lambda function to an S3 bucket, you name it.
Yeah.
And the security services. By that time, not many services. Not that in Cloud Duty was available, but you had other options, right? And talking about that, I realized that in doing hardening in the cloud and being ready for security incident was really hard. Even in the cloud, because none of those services are enabled by default because you have to pay for them.
Yeah, that's right.
So during that event, people will say, "Yeah, man, what you are doing is very cool. So you should keep pushing."
Yeah.
And I had my day job. That was like a pet project, and I presented Prowler into Black Hat Arsenal. Also, that was a very important. That was a good progress in terms of popularity.
Yeah. What year was that?
That was 2018.
Okay.
By that time, I got 2,000 stars on GitHub.
Okay.
And I kept adding more checks. I got contributions like new output formats, new checks, new compliance framework supported. And by that time, everything was Bash script.
Still
a Bash script.
Okay.
Yeah. And very slow compared to any other tools that came a bit later, like Scout Suite or others that they were. CloudSploit was very fast because it was Node, I think. Scout Suite was Python. All those tools were very fast in terms of scanning.
Yeah.
But Prowler was easier.
Yeah.
Easier to use, in my opinion, of course. But all the tools.
I mean, if it's Bash script, you don't have to install a bunch of
nothing. It was working at the beginning from the very first.
So you're like with Bash script, you're relying on the AWS CLI?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In the AWS CLI with everything that everybody was familiar with. Right?
Yeah.
Like the credentials, authentication, services, very straightforward.
So you put your secret key and your access and that's it.
The environment variables, and that's all.
Yeah.
And
what was the output format at that time? Like if you ran
the very first output format was TXT on the screen. I mean, was the output in the screen. So you run, by that time you run Prowler and you got check number 1, you are okay. Check number 2, you are not okay. Check number 3, like that. Seriously, that easy. Not even an output. The output was the screen. The standard output in the screen, and on the command line. Right after that, I created it was a TXT file, then a CSV file that was a contribution from a contributor. What is the name? Not the name. Ben Allen.
Okay.
Also, I created an HTML that the HTML file was created on the fly.
Okay.
It was, I mean, if you think about any type of trick, Bash or shell script trick that you can imagine, that was in Prowler. But at some point, it was very hard to manage.
So like when you say this HTML script is created on the fly, like you're literally creating like the tags from like this like output of the Bash script.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, it was. I created the template by myself. I mean, now in Python, I didn't know that Python was going to make everything easier. Even I had my own functions for date of some services.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, for BSD one, for Linux a different one.
Yeah.
If you run that from Linux or from Mac, for example. It was crazy.
Speaking of date, I mean, just a random question because I remember from this time period, the company that I was with at the time and the product that I was selling, DivvyCloud, like we were a kind of a customer server install. It was Python based, web based interface, and so on. But we often had this problem where the clock sync would get out of sync with AWS, and so if your EC2 instance, which is where most customers ran our product, if that had any kind of NTP drift from AWS, even if you provisioned valid credentials into the instance, like the checks would fail. Like
because the temporary token doesn't work.
Exactly. It's like it's not valid or out of scope or whatever.
Yeah. So when I said that it was a learning exercise, it's because I learned a lot about those things. Because if something fails. So at some point, Prowler had a very large community and a lot of people using it all the time. And when I say all the time, it's like, I remember making a change and people testing that change straight away.
Yeah.
And now it happens even more. But when somebody started saying, hey, I'm running this check and doesn't work because I'm running in code build from this type of build where everything, and I remember spending the whole night debugging every time that somebody was saying that a product doesn't work in this case.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
And very hard to debug.
Yeah.
But on the other side, I was very proud because my code was being used by our people. I remember very large companies using Prowler and asking me, hey, Toni, why do you add this or that feature? I remember not to sleep that night adding the feature. And that was back in 2018 or 19.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had the opportunity to join AWS. Because I tried to join AWS many times because it's like, for me, it was like, wow, my dream job, right? Like Legoland for a kid.
Yeah.
And I joined AWS. I spent 2 years in AWS doing different positions, and learning a lot about a company like Amazon, and also growing, making Prowler even more important internally, but also externally.
Yeah.
Adding more popularity into Prowler, many VCs and people are looking also at successful open source projects to see if they can make money out of them.
Yeah.
And I had many different conversations with a lot of people.
Yep.
And at some point that I was working so many hours for AWS, of course, and my day job, and for Prowler, I decided to put all my eggs in the same basket for Prowler. So I quit and I started full time with Prowler.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what year was that?
That was 2021.
Okay.
And after a year and a half, I started the company.
Okay.
And in 2023, actually, now in July is going to be 2 years of the company, the incorporated company, but with money. And then I raised money, like 3-4 months after that.
Yeah.
It wasn't very, very difficult.
Yeah.
But it wasn't easy either.
Yeah.
But it's good when you have an open source project that is very popular, makes everything easier.
Yeah. You have proof, you have, users, you have validation. And I think one of the things that it's easy to take for granted is actually like just the importance of getting your software into the hands of as many people as possible to prove that it's working, right? So like, even if, let's say, the commercial model isn't necessarily working the way that you think it should or something like that, you at least know that A, the software works, and B, there's value being provided because like otherwise people wouldn't use it.
Exactly.
Right. And so those are two strong validation points. I'm curious, you're one of the few people that I've had on the show that goes back in cloud security as long as I do, and maybe even longer. I left AWS in 2011, but I didn't have a ton of focus on security at the time because at that time, well, first of all, like during my time at AWS, VPC and IAM were both introduced. Prior to that, like the way that organizations used AWS accounts was completely different, right? Like, and I think those two things really changed the security model completely. Prior to that, like a company would have one AWS account and, you threw everything in there, and at best you had tags on different workloads, but effectively every instance was kind of internet facing. And so you had to adjust the way that you used AWS because of those constraints. And then VPC and IAM came along, and then like you as a customer, you can set this up however you want. Oh, I want this users with these roles, and I want role-based access control, and I want like a subnet that looks like this, and a DMZ, and all the different things that you could put in place. But I'm curious from your perspective, right? So 10 years in, or 9 years into Prowler, what's changed? What do you see that's like different today in terms of, let's say, like the cloud provider defaults, or let's say the challenges that customers have when they turn on cloud accounts for the first time?
In AWS or in general?
I guess either. I mean, however you want to think about it.
It's way more complex.
Okay.
It's way more complex. There are so many API endpoints. It's very different to do a cloud security product like Prowler for AWS than others.
Okay.
Or AWS or Google Cloud, kind of easy, but compared to Microsoft related services.
Yeah.
Because also the pace of AWS is different to everybody else.
Yeah.
The best thing of AWS from Prowler standpoint is Boto 3.
Okay.
That makes everything very easy. Very easy. Others are a little bit more difficult in order to understand how to do that properly. Microsoft is a little bit and I would on that. But in terms of the industry, something that is happening too much probably is that companies, even small companies, even small organizations, they want to use multiple clouds.
Yeah.
And that makes everything harder. Not for us. I mean, we are multi-cloud, and because we want to bring service for all the most important cloud providers and SaaS.
Yeah.
But for an end customer to understand how just one single cloud works is hard. So to understand two cloud service providers is even harder.
Yeah.
Something that happens in IAM, has happened in IAM in the last 12 years, is nothing more than complexity.
Yeah.
And we are trying to create tools to allow people to understand what they have, or at least the most important things.
Yeah.
They don't have overprivileged users or roles, policies, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's very hard. And that is a pending task for all cloud providers.
Yeah.
Microsoft to AWS, of course.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, I think like of all the things that are the most different across the three major cloud providers, IAM is the one that, in my opinion, is the most different.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's because, but that starts from the foundation. And you said that AWS started with the account as the unique entity.
Yeah.
And they didn't have this. They didn't fix that. That is still the same. Regardless, AWS organizations that try to create some sort of umbrella, but it's still the same.
Yeah.
Even if you want,
I mean, if you start an AWS account today, you're going to end up with one account, and you have a root user as your starting point, and then you have to go from there. And if you want to kind of grow up to be an AWS organization, you need to create an organization and then create the OUs and all the the things around it, and create an admin user and disable root and all those types of things.
The SCPs, they don't apply to the organization's management account for obvious reasons. That's kind of, and in the other side, in Azure, for example, the way you organize subscriptions makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, you're starting with the top-down construct. You have an org, and you have
or even with projects in Google.
In Google,
is also even probably easier way to see it in terms of also permissions, giving permissions or assigning the roles, all that stuff. But it's funny because we have made, regardless the complexity of AWS IAM, we have made kind of easy to use mostly.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, I said easy between quotes because we have been in AWS pretty much forever.
Yeah.
But for the new people, it's like, wow, this is a big issue.
Yeah.
It's a big issue.
And how have you seen things like the benchmarks evolve over time, like the CIS benchmarks or other standards? Because like I see kind of two aspects of them that I really scratch my head around. Number one is of course, like the cloud providers are moving so fast and they're adding new services. And obviously, like the last 2 years, they've been adding so many AI related services with a ton of risk associated to them, especially in different data usage, but almost nothing in the way of, let's say, like compliance or security checks around the AI specific things. But part of my point is that like the cloud providers move super quickly. Organizations like CIS don't move nearly as fast. And so they're always kind of behind what is actually like out there in terms of risks or misconfigurations that a customer could get wrong. And yet still most customers, when you talk to them, it's like, hey, what are you doing? Well, I'm checking CIS benchmark, whatever, right?
And still people want that level 1 or level 2,
Yeah.
CIS level 1 or level 2. It's, so to give you an idea, I started Prowler for CIS benchmark, AWS CIS benchmark version 1, and now it's CIS benchmark for AWS version 5.
Okay.
In 9 years.
In 9 years, okay.
At the beginning, I think they were like 50 checks or 50 controls, and now they are like 78.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Are 70 or even 100 controls enough to guarantee your security? No. But I don't see any other compliance framework that guarantees full security.
Well, no compliance framework is ever a guarantee of anything.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. That is not their job.
No.
I mean, despite it should be kind of, but
yeah,
something that we try to do, and we do actually with Prowler Studio, we can update more often our supported compliance frameworks. We have more than 50 now. Is just to make sure all the new services are in the section of the existing compliance frameworks. I'm talking not only about CIS, but also ISO 27001, SOC 2 Type 2, you name it. And now we have actually in Prowler 5.8 that we release most likely tomorrow, we include something that we have called Prowler Threat Score.
Okay.
And we try to go a little bit farther than the typical yes or no if you are compliant with this requirement or that requirement.
Yeah.
But because that gives you a false sense of security.
Yeah.
Because if you have everything right, but an exposed S3 bucket, you have a 99% of right next. Right? Yeah. That is false. Yeah. Because you are actually doing something really bad, like exposing resources.
Yeah.
With Prowler Threat Score, we are adding weights.
Okay.
And the risk and the weight, the weight of the finding is going to tell you your actual score.
And are the weights informed by what threat actors are exploiting in the world, or what determines the weights?
Mostly the exposure of resources.
So if you think about things like net effective access, where like, something that might get flagged as this has public internet access, but actually, there's a VPC and there's an ACL and there's a whatever, you can actually check whether it really is exposed and then maybe like lower the score or whatever.
Yeah, but we have that in our checks now.
Okay.
So now if you have a port 22 open in a security group, we don't not only tell you, hey, you have this open with a severity, but if it's open, if it's attached to an instance, if it's in a public subnet, instance has a public IP, that is critical severity. Yeah. Instead of if you have that security group open and it's not even attached to anything, it's a low severity. But still a problem.
But still a problem. Yeah.
But not a big.
Right. This is one of the things that I think like a lot of customers are probably facing as their cloud footprint gets larger and larger. One of the problems is tools like Prowler, like, former DivvyCloud, any CSPM tool really, like you find all these misconfigurations and you show them to the customer, but sometimes that list is really long and can be very overwhelming, right? And so things like this where you're waiting and then trying to tell them like, actually, these are the ones that you should care about. I know you have 1,000, but like these are the 50 that are actually important because they're publicly exposed and I can show you exactly why and so on, right? Makes a ton of sense. So what's next for Prowler? Like what do you think is the path forward?
So in that regard, we have something that we call mute list.
Okay.
And is becoming part of the UI of the mute list, the application UI that is open source and is in our Prowler Cloud offering.
Yeah.
And that is going to make everything easier. because you're going to be able to mute group of finding, many things. And also something that we are adding now to Prowler, our AI part is called Prowler Lighthouse, is going to tell you what is the most important thing you have to do now.
Okay.
Based on context, if you want to give Prowler context, but if not, it's going to tell you, hey, I have just done this security assessment in this or that account or project or subscription, and do this now.
Yeah.
Because this is important. And if you don't know how to do it, you can ask.
Yeah.
And Prowler gives you the CloudFormation template, the Terraform code, or anything. I mean, AI is great for that. I mean, it's not 100% guaranteed that it's going to be perfect, but it helps a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. For example, to ask Prowler, hey, give me the SCP to prevent this or that to happen. And it gives you straight away. Yeah. That is is going to help a lot. And also, we are adding new providers like Microsoft 365. We are adding also GitHub for your security of your repositories.
Yep.
But also, we are going to allow Prowler to scan your code. It's like shifting left a little bit.
Yeah.
Prowler is actually that is already in the repo. So it's a new provider that we call IAC, Infrastructure as Code.
Yeah. So
you are going to be able to scan Terraform, CloudFormation, GitHub Secrets, Actions, all that stuff. Nice. Because we want you to use Prowler not only for the runtime part, but also before runtime.
Yeah.
And to cover the whole pipeline, let's say, of your application or your workloads in the cloud. And on top of that, now we have released a new service called Prowler Hub. That is our database or our knowledge base of Prowler artifacts. So, for example, if you want to learn how to secure SageMaker, for example, you can go to Prowler Hub and see all the SageMaker controls that we have, how to assess them, how to learn from them, why is important this or that control, and how all of them map to multiple security compliance frameworks.
Yep.
So basically, keep growing the community also and giving the industry an open source alternative to what everybody needs. That is improve their security posture.
And how many stars are we at now in Prowler?
We have almost 12,000.
Very nice. Yeah. Awesome. We've only got a couple minutes left, and I've got two questions I want to kind of come back to. Number one is, for those who have never gone through cloud forensics, we talked for just a second about making sure that you have all the logs turned on, and I know there's paid services, but just at like a high level, when you think about, okay, we've had an incident in our cloud environment, how do you approach forensics? Like, is there any kind of lesson learned that you could share with the audience?
Well, actually, in 2018, I released a kind of a workflow on what you have to do when you have an incident, depending on the incident, of course. But if it's, a credentials leak through the IMDS version 1, you should also take a snapshot of the EBS volume, then do the analysis of the EBS volume, doing typical forensics, like using the cloud, going through the whole path of the attacker from, let's say, common application in the cloud where you have static content in an S3 bucket. Then your application in a cluster of EC2 instances. But below the two load balancers. And then your database. You have to make sure all that stuff is logging, including the CloudWatch logs, for example, for your application. The S3 for the content, even the load balancers, the VPC flow logs. Now, the VPC flow logs are not that important if you have guard duty enabled.
Well, and also, especially if you're running more, let's say, like serverless or containerized workloads.
Exactly. But if you have Lambda functions, you have, there are many different services that you don't even know sometimes that they have a logging option. So is to go through all that stuff. Actually, in Prowler Threat Score, we have 4 pillars, and one is incident response. Are you ready for an incident? And it's about monitoring, logging, and the services that about those artifacts.
In this blog post, is it still online?
Should be.
Yeah.
Should be.
Okay.
My Blix.com, my personal blog that
Okay.
I don't update very often, but yeah, it should be in Blix.com, BRYX.com.
BLYX. All right. We'll see if we can find it and put it in the show notes for anybody who's interested. Last thing. I mean, you've been working on this. You've been working on this for like 9 years now. So you've seen all the changes across the different cloud providers, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, etc. If you could talk to the heads of product for each of these platforms, what would be like your number one request for something that you wish that they would change?
Unify APIs, man.
Yeah.
Unify APIs and SDKs.
Yeah.
And that is an important thing, mostly for Azure.
Yeah.
But yeah, having developer tools, SDKs,
Yeah.
and for most common languages like Python and
Java. Oh, yeah, whatever.
At least,
yeah,
that will make their clouds more secure. 100%. And for AWS, what I will ask is change the way you create defaults.
Yeah. But security defaults have gotten better.
Security is better.
Yeah.
But also IAM is harder.
Yeah, fair enough.
But if we allow people, I mean, I remember one of the reasons I started Prowler was because doing a scan of look for EC2 instances.
Yep.
I found 3 accounts with EC2 instances in Singapore, and we were a British company.
Yeah.
It's like, why?
Yeah.
Why Singapore is enabled?
Yeah.
So to create better defaults or more secure, or at least to give the opportunity to create something like, okay, you have to open.
So imagine you had some kind of like, let's say, account wizard at the very beginning of the process, and you just describe like, this is what I want. I want an organization, and we are a British company. We're going to run production in London, and maybe we'll run disaster recovery in the Ireland region. Those should be our default ones. And, our main use cases. And it seems like, by the way, with LLMs, this shouldn't be very hard to kind of create
in context.
Yeah.
Actually, if you go to the wizard that you can use when you create a VPC, since 2 years ago, it's a very decent one.
Yeah.
That is asking you, what do you want to do? What is the application like? Looking like? And something like that forget about account.
Okay.
Even about project or is what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And I'm going to do my part, me as a cloud service provider, and you customer do this.
Yeah.
We should be able to do that.
Yeah.
And that is also going to help everybody to understand the shared responsibility model that nowadays is almost impossible to understand. Yeah. For us, a little bit because we have been in the cloud for long, but for new people, so we need to fix that, or otherwise the cloud adoption is going to get stuck.
Yeah. And by the way, the shared responsibility model is getting even, I would say, muddier with AI services.
Of course. Now, I remember when AWS released Bedrock with the Bedrock, the LLM hijacking and different issues that came by that time. How can you explain somebody? What is your responsibility?
Yeah.
Sometimes what I said in our favor of Prowler is like, if Prowler can fix it or can tell you, it's your responsibility. That's all. But also over the years, Prowler is not only being used by end users, but also by the providers. But anyway, if you are building an application and Prowler can tell you what is wrong, because it's your responsibility. Whatever that is.
Yeah.
It can be in a serverless or it can be in a full responsibility EC2 instance.
So Bedrock breaks this quite a bit, right? Because we've been actually testing a lot of the models, and the behavior that you get from, let's say, like some of the Amazon models versus some third-party models is like night and day different. And, common jailbreak prompts that just don't work on some models do on the others. And how are you supposed to think about that as a customer when you're like, hey, Amazon, why are you giving me a crappy model that's like super vulnerable to the most basic of LLM jailbreaks, right?
But that happened in the past when they released new services. That happened in the Elasticsearch service, and it's different to the OpenSearch.
Yeah,
even if it's under the hood, it's kind of the same
engine.
But the defaults are different. That's why. But why? Because you have more or less control. I mean,
Yeah.
they have less or more
Yeah.
control on the way they expose the services. And this is going to happen tomorrow with any other new service. So that is why I think we have to be alert. We have a team dedicated to threat detection and remediation and new controls. And as you say, with AI, that should make our lives easier. But it's not going to fix everything.
Awesome. Well, Toni, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on Modern Cyber. We will be back with another episode from the sidelines of Forward CloudSec. We're hoping to get a chance to sit down with as many people as possible, sharing their perspectives. This is really one of the best opportunities that we have all year to sit down with such a concentrated group of experts. Toni de la Fuente, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Awesome.